Hello, and welcome to Mind Your Head, a space for people to share their stories, talk openly and honestly about their own mental health challenges, and to give some listeners some comfort in knowing you're not alone. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we record this podcast, the Gubbi Gubbi people. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Indigenous peoples. We honour their enduring connection to the land, waters and culture, and recognise their invaluable contributions they make to our communities. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. This episode is proudly supported by True Protein. Use the code MindYourHead at the checkout to score $25 off your next order. This episode is brought to you by TLC Recovery Centre on the Sunshine Coast. Head to TLC Sunshine Coast, use the code TLC15MYH to receive 15% off and experience it for yourself. Heston, welcome to Mind Your Head, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on today. I'm actually a little bit nervous, if I'm being honest with you.
Why?
I've done this, for the last 2 years, and I don't normally get nervous, but when I first started this, I had a list of people that I wanted to come on the podcast.
You're right.
And I've been sort of ticking them off slowly the last couple of years. But your name was actually at the top of that list, believe it or not.
Mate, much more disappointing in person.
No, not at all.
Actually, it depends how we cut it up.
Yeah, it depends how we look here.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you, and I've watched some of your work, and I look forward to having the conversation and just let it flow.
Yeah, let it flow, absolutely, because a lot of the things that you advocate for, a lot of the themes that you talk about, the military background, I guess your journey that's been with your identity and your mental health, that's like the core reason why I started this podcast. So, yes, like I said, mate, it's a pleasure to sit down with you.
Thanks for coming to Sydney and making this happen.
Yeah. First of all, Veteran Games over the weekend. How was it? Another success?
Pretty amazing. This is our third year, and now I finally get to enjoy it. It's funny doing it, like I sort of run the thing, games master, all that good stuff. And, my enjoyment is others enjoying themselves. My love language is acts of service, so it's great for me. But you don't really get to enjoy because you're sort of working and you're on the game and taking responsibility for everything, even if it's particularly at an intrinsic level. But it's happened 3 years now, 3 times in a row. There's this magic that happens. And I now love it looking back with a bit more reflection, where 2021, I just started writing this strategic document of what I wanted to do with this Veteran Games, all the objectives I wanted to have, and how I just thought it was, this positive, proactive thing that instead of focusing on mental health, would just have all these byproducts. And like today, there's one RSL sub-branch that's reached out, like, we want to sponsor this and we want to get a team and get together. And one of the teams reached out. It's like, hey, can you connect us with the other team that we beat in the tug of war? But that first round, they dug in so hard that we want to make a $1,000 never give up prize for this year and for the following years. Yeah. And just all of these testimonials of people coming through saying, I never knew how much I needed it. And out there, people coming up and saying, this is incredible. Like, it's just common stuff, but the way it's been put together. So there's the ability to make magic. We talk about so many things, and particularly in the charity space, we say a lot of things to try and justify our existence or funding or people to be involved. But just being able to be there and now sit back and just watch that same magic happen and watch people riding these waves of nostalgia, it's very cool. And it's sort of unlocking a part of me that feels like it's been locked away, suppressed, beaten, shamed for a while now.
What part's that?
Enjoying my military identity.
Were you ashamed of it?
Post taking on the ABC, and particularly once I beat them in the federal court, and then once I exposed that they literally, for the first time in our nation's history, changed gunshots, added 5 extra gunshots to footage.
We're going to talk about that.
And the biggest gaslighting of that, mate, is that they keep saying it was an editing error, but they zoomed in the camera.
It's deliberate.
They circled 2 people. They keep focusing on the audio, but they changed the visual as well. Yeah. And for during my court case, me applying to the Department of Defence when the ABC said it was these dates, and I said, here's my deployment order, please release it. We weren't even in Afghanistan, to get a 1-page salutation in response through to, once we exposed them, the gunshots and the court win, no one from Defence, no one from Veterans Affairs, no one from the National RSL speaking out. And I come from my dad, military, Afghan, Iraq, my brother, military, mum's dad, put on the hook in Korea and was the first RSM of 8RR in Vietnam
Wow.
through to, 2 more generations. So my family served for 5 generations. And I just had this part where I sat there, I was like, what is it all worth if even once you go through every democratic tool at your disposal to right the ultimate wrong, your government doesn't even care. So there was really this, you'll ask my psychologist, sense of abandonment in like the most massive way. And even in the veteran community, mate, so many people deserted me during that time, whereas they were with me when we won the Royal Commission, all the rest. So I've honestly been pushing a lot more into my gay community, a lot more into my personal life, trying to move away from it. But even out there running the events, doing all that, people come up to me saying like, wow, like you and your flow is pretty amazing. And my mum said the same thing. And I turned to her and I was like, this is just a fraction of what I have done. Give me 8 helicopters, 4 drones, fast jets, 60 commandos and partner force, and let's synchronize it up over 3 days and get out there and, shape people to do that was the best, mate. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization, state of flow. It was nice getting back into some of that.
Yeah, almost rediscovering that love and why you fell in love with the military in the first place.
And this is the incredible thing. Even having conversations this weekend, nearly all the things I'm doing out there, I got from my training, particularly in Special Forces. And I got to do it for good instead of, doing it to take the fight to bad people in the world. I got to do it for good. So it was pretty cool, eh?
Did you see, that's what I guess the veterans were lacking is, once they got out of the military, that belonging or that sense of community?
Well, mate, I derived the Veteran Games from the Royal Commission's finding that found loss of purpose, loss of community and loss of identity as 3 key factors that lead to mental ill health and suicidality. And I love talking about this conversation just about purpose. In the military, I didn't realise, particularly in Special Forces, that I had these proactive layers of purpose. As the officer, my head and heart were always with the team and with a mission before I was worried about anything to do with myself. And you really lose that once you lose the tribe. And community in particular, and having a team around you where you're connected to them, even being there, watching out for each other, having each other's back. We don't often get the chance to do that outside of service in a physical setting where there are physical risks. Like some of these events I make them do,
I was going to ask.
Mate, like a half pipe, like a ninja wall. They got to go through a water obstacle, come out, and then they've got everything from this super heavy tire, wooden logs, full metal ammo crates. They've got to get them up the half pipe. And, they basically have to form this crazy human chain and, they're chucking these things over each other's heads and, one false move, they'll split each other's head open. But there are these real risks. And you see
they
people
probably miss. They love that.
We perform better under pressure because we've been trained beforehand. One of my favourite sayings is you don't rise to the occasion, you default your level of training experience. And people get to do that. And even some of them coming up to me saying, I actually wasn't fully thinking about what I was doing out there. I was just impressed seeing myself being able to flow into doing these things.
Flow state.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Yeah. That's incredible.
And just otherwise, mate, in the veteran community, we get together at Anzac Day, we get to the Remembrance Day, we have beers and we reminisce and we talk, and this person's story is tougher than this person's story, but veteran games have to then get out there and do it. And we don't have booze out there either. We keep all that away from it.
All dry, yeah. That's amazing. We'll definitely get more into it.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm also riding the high afterwards. It was brilliant, mate, and just reinvested, restoked the fire to grow it bigger and better.
That's what I always think. Like I've chatted to some ex-military people, and I can't imagine the high and the adrenaline of going overseas on deployment, all your mates, life or death situations, and that high and that adrenaline must be just so extreme, and then to sort of come back home and then have no sort of that same feeling, like try to replicate it. Like you're out of the military.
Yeah.
Is it you trying to chase that feeling, or are you trying to like repurpose and chase another high?
It's a fascinating conversation that I really enjoy because you're 100% correct. You get to experience, you push yourself to the truest limits in the most extreme circumstances where the actions and decisions are life or death. And then I got to do that particularly as an officer, as a Special Forces commander, with the art of tactics, and you only really get to appreciate like leadership and military tactics are an art form. There is science to them, particularly when you practice them so much. It really is an incredible creative process that I've never been able to replicate. But it sets such a high watermark when you have achieved, and it is the elite level of performance. Because again, if you don't win, you die. It's incredible. And I've asked myself, would I be in a better place today having never experienced that, never having the watermark so high? And one of my favorite references is going from particularly Afghanistan 2012 with my platoon, 67 missions in 5 months, killed 117 insurgents, just this telepathic level of flow at a team, family by choice level, incredible. To then getting out of the military, and I remember waking up and my biggest responsibility is to take my sausage dog for a walk.
That's what I mean. Like just normal, like
relevance.
mundane, like jobs, not jobs, but chores, things you got to do. I was like, how can that compare? Like how on earth?
It is dangerous. It is really dangerous. And, you know, it's not even that uncommon with, you know, I spoke to Ian Thorpe on my podcast back in the day with the gold medal alumni that put together the Families of League Foundation, formerly the Men of League Foundation for Sports Stars. It's really a difficult adjustment. The interesting part, particularly people who've been exposed to prolonged periods of combat, prolonged periods of fight and flight, is the whole nervous system and endocrine piece, where it's not so, people call it adrenal fatigue or whatever, but there is a certain, I'm adamant that there is a certain evolution that occurs when your body is exposed to such extreme fight or flight, because as opposed to refining your motor skills and making you, you know more mandrolic in what you do and, you know, uncoordinated, it got to a point where it just took you to the next level, like the hypervigilance and the dexterity and just the complete situational and self-awareness you had. You know, I like to say, I know my body operates so well off dopamine and endorphins, but where I really struggle is oxytocin and serotonin.
Yeah, right.
And it's very easy to me to find and look for fight. There's no flight. And to wage campaign and put all that planning experience into something aggressively, but finding it really hard to find joy in those moments. And again, it comes down to tribe, you said at the start, finding people who you just vibrate on that wavelength. I'd tell you this quick story from the weekend, mate. I linked up with this special forces buddy of mine, Zed. If you read my book, Heston Russell, Forging the Will to Fight, he's in there.
We've got the book too.
He's in there, mate. It's good to go. On my selection course, we served together at 2 Hour in Townsville, and he was my battle buddy on selection course. And like throughout the Rio, which is 10 months after, like just the most ultimate combat gnome, we call him. He's this 5'2", nothing but brilliant. And I was there. I had an umbrella out there, mate, because it was so hot. And next thing, the side of my umbrella collapsed. And I was like, what's going on here? Is it the wind or whatever? Within 5 seconds, Zed appeared next to me with a new umbrella, took that umbrella and was gone. I'm like, I haven't been around this level of like team connection. And like, there's a difference between team connection, but then there's the elite level where that was common practice back in the day in the unit. I was just like,
you didn't have to ask; he just knew, like instinctively.
And it's not like, and we weren't around a supply of umbrellas. He just grabbed one from one of the other judges, said, "Hesto needs this," bolted out there, and you know he's 50 meters away, and he's just checking my back. Like,
well, you don't lose that, even if you're out, you still don't lose that.
But then, mate, you know, my psychologist says to me, a lot of issues with defence members transitioning out is going from that team environment where it's values-based, it's service and team before self, to a society that's the complete opposite. You know, responsibilities traded for entitlement, selflessness for selfishness, and too often they don't put themselves forward and think that someone will make sure they're not left behind, but they will leave themselves behind, which is just the way of the world, because if you don't push forward yourself, you are going to be left behind. But yeah, it's
different. Because I experienced, like, obviously not the life or death, you know, scenarios, but when playing sort of rugby in front of, you know, thousands of people, and that adrenaline and feeling like, you know, you're the man. Like people want you, people want to come see you play. Like if you're scoring tries, you're doing interviews. Like I remember being like 21 years old and thinking, like, I'm Superman, right? And then all of a sudden, like, you know, people were like, oh, what are you going to do after playing footy? And I just thought, being 21 years old, and I just thought a 30-year-old is so far down the line. Like,
Yeah, man.
mid-30s, 30's so old, which is funny now because I'm 34 and I
Yeah.
feel younger than I did when I was 21.
Oh, good.
But I remember thinking that, and then when I stopped playing, all of a sudden, like, you blink, you're 30, you got no other skills.
Yeah.
You know, all you did was play rugby. And I just remember thinking, like, oh, like the pressure and the anxiety of playing, performing, and that high performance, always, you got to be on all the time. If you don't be on, your contract's gone, you know, you're going to lose your job.
Yeah.
And when I stopped playing, I just thought to myself, I can't wait just to wake up and then not have the pressure of, you know, go get in training. I was almost burnt out.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought I needed a break. So I
Yeah.
was like, I can't wait just to chill out, do all the training I wanted. That lasted probably 6 months and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I worked it out that I loved the pressure. I
Yeah.
loved, like, being under the, you know, being the underdog or under the gun, or like I needed something to be pushing me. If I was left to my own devices, you know, I went mental.
Well, it's
know?
also that structure, that
Yeah.
environment. But it comes back to purpose, man. This is where
Mm.
we've often found, like, when what you do or the relationship you're in, so your job or your relationship are your identity, it's usually when we get, like, our highest levels of performance. The issue is when that purpose ends. And the key part is when we're on the highs of that purpose, we never think it's going to end, or we think we'll be ready for it to end, or we think it's going to end on our terms. And particularly in the veteran narrative, and particularly in the footy, the NRL narrative, I know, speaking to people like Gus Gould and others, the highest risk of mental ill health and suicidality and suicide comes when that purpose ends through no actions of your own. So, for example, through injury.
Concussions.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. That's why I stopped playing, because of the concussions. Yeah.
Through in the military, you know, a job might no longer be required, or you might, you know, have a level of performance not required. And particularly when we recruit people with this infinite mindset that it's going to be forever, as opposed to, I mean, I could just talk about mindset all day. Conditioning people before you go into an institution that provides most of Maslow's hierarchy of needs for you, and saying, hey, this is a short period. You need to maintain your tether to an identity outside of this, to a life outside of this, and know you are going to need to provide for yourself, because at the end of the day, this machine is designed to put the winning team on, and once you get off, you don't get the same level of resources and investment. You know, people like myself join straight out of school, one institution to the next. It's that institutionalization and deinstitutionalization and reintegration that we're missing, and so much of it comes down to appreciation of mindset, values, and understanding purpose can be this incredible proactive resilience piece, but remove someone's identity, that is when they're at their most vulnerable.
Yeah, that was for me. Anyone ever knew about Elliot or anything, all the conversations they asked, how's footy?
Yeah.
How's footy on? And I just went along with it because that's all I had to talk about.
Yeah.
But deep down, I always thought, like, for years, I always thought I had more to offer than to play rugby.
Yeah.
But because all I did was play rugby and I didn't, you know, go looking for other things that I was interested in, you know, I was just like, and my biggest thing was, you know, fear of failure. Like, I was so caught up on failing and, you know, trying something new and looking like an idiot.
Yeah.
So I just wouldn't try anything new, even though I loved piano. You know, I love songs, I love fashion, like
Ladies
I love
and
all
gentlemen, we have a pianist.
like I love, you know, I'm learning Spanish, like I love all these things
Oh, wow.
that I hid because it was Elliot the footy player, you know. I loved, you know, different sorts of movies, or I always knew that I wasn't the typical rugby stereotype, but because, like, no one else was sort of being unique or, you know, being themselves, everyone was just, you know, fitting the line and everyone was being the same. I was like, oh, well, I'll just do that. And it got to a point where my mental health went so far down the line because I just wasn't being me, you know. And it wasn't until, like, the best footy I ever played was with a coach in New Zealand where he was just like, we don't care, like, who you are, what you do. Like, just, we want you to be you.
But so where did you get the framework for what was a stereotypical football player that required you to suppress those other things?
Socially, like, community on TV, like, especially in the rugby circles, in that community, it's just like, you know, toughen up, you know, this is what you got to do. This is what a footy player looks like. And there was no one, when I was younger, there was no one for me to look to that was doing it their way. Everyone you saw on TV was the drinking beer, you know, the carry on, the macho, you get cut in your face, or, you know, you rock and roll music, you like all this stuff. And then I'm just like thinking, oh, well, that's what I've got to be like. But deep down, like,
you reckon it's because people like certain, particularly in the Western world, as we have this just commercial spin on things, everything has to have a label so people can immediately understand it.
Yeah,
And
you're a footy player.
Or any uncertainty makes people, is difficult for people. I wonder if it's, we're just making people dumber because, even conversation we have today, what label are you? The conversation is, you're Elliot, hey, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Or, we define ourselves by our purpose or by our label as opposed to like, hey Elliot, like what are your values?
What are you into?
What are your love languages?
Yeah.
I love these conversations.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Go back, mate. This is what the Greeks are talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
They weren't trying to sell shit.
It's more deeper conversations. I remember like painting my nails for the first time around some of my rugby mates, and they were like, "Are you gay?" And I was like, "Why's that?"
You and my mate Harry Garside have some good conversations.
Harry's actually, shout out Harry. I'm trying to get you on the podcast too, actually.
Just send him a DM. Or someone's managing his shit these days, so you'll be fine.
But I remember like the reaction I got from some of my rugby mates was like, I was like, "Why do you reckon that?" Because your nails are pink, and I was like, "I love pink. Pink's my favorite color." And they were just like, "You can't."
What's your upbringing? Because all that stuff comes from it's a way people are brought up. The freedom of expression and authenticity.
My dad is an artist. Like he does graphic design, but he does a lot of paintings, and he's so like motivated to learn things, and like all the paintings around the house. I was like, oh, they're pretty good paintings. And Mum's like, Dad painted all these. I was like, what the hell?
Wow.
And he just taught himself. Okay. He just go down the back and taught himself.
Creative influence from
my older brother's a videographer and a photographer, and he does like short films and stuff. So I think that creative gene was always. I love fashion. I love.
You do?
Yeah, being a little bit.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding completely. Just throwing a bit of shade.
What's wrong with this?
Mate. I'm kidding.
But yeah, they're the things that I always hit. I always like, especially in the rugby scene, no one else was sort of being themselves or standing out. Everyone was just fitting into the line. And then I think, it wasn't until I'm 34 now. It wasn't until I was about 30 where I can actually look back and go, I'm actually living the life that I've always wanted to live. Like I'm always starting again. Like those 20s.
But authentically.
Yeah, authentically. And like that 20s was such a blur. I did some crazy things. I traveled the world. I played, in some massive games and won grand finals. And I honestly thought like nothing was going to beat that. Like nothing was ever going to beat that period of my life. But even like the 4 years, or the 2 years I've started the podcast and the people that I've met and like the conversations I've managed to have, that far surpasses the impact that I've playing footy.
Well, I think we're taught from a young age, or we take on wherever we get it from a young age, that life's about achievements and achieving things.
The outcome.
As opposed to like, the journey along the way. The ultimate journeys of self-discovering. At the same time, being able to help others and have impact for sure. But the self-achievement part only gets you so far. And you feel like you need it in order to quantify yourself in comparison to others. Yeah.
A lot of it's like that comparison, like the thief of joy is always comparing everyone to each other.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've learned. At the end of the day, most people are only projecting or protecting their own insecurity in some way. I've definitely been the same way. And this is this Australian small pond piece. Even just the more I travel, the more I get to appreciate countries that have big world issues or proper diversity or different languages and all the rest. I used to have this saying in the military: when there's no war outside the wire, the battles come from within.
So true.
There's no missions outside. It's like grooming standards, men, why aren't you wearing your hats? Whereas like when the bullets are flying, mate, it's like relevance cuts through.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the traveling because I've noticed you do a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
Is that what you get out of it? A different perspective on?
I feel like I've particularly post the ABC court case piece. I had like some really big crashes, like couldn't get out of bed sort of crashes, which I'd never felt before in the highs of combat. So it was quite interesting. And I just feel like something snapped in my brain, and I'm going through this whole very reflective piece of unlearning things. Even just like listening to you talking about the creative influence from your dad, my head jumps to like, otherwise most people are brought up with this model that, pink is for girls and all this. And it was a special forces mindset, the Commando mindset, one of my early instructors taught me. It's like, just always ask why and understand why, as opposed to just to accept the templates we have. I went to India earlier this year, and you see, a 3-story house with the grandparents on the ground level, the parents on the middle, the kids on the top, The grandparents are there to help raise the kids. The parents go off to work, then the kids are helping raise the grandparents, pooling their resources, all the positive impacts. Whereas we're taught in this model in Australia that every individual person has to have their own house unit, and we're sending ourselves broke.
It's crazy.
But it's just what we've been taught. Because also there's a humility in shutting up, looking and listening to what others are doing, and not always having to be right. I really do enjoy it. I remember my first deployment to East Timor as a 21-year-old, Timor-Leste, sorry. And I remember even just from the first time then seeing the difference between, culture here where the family has as many children as they can support. Over there, the more children you have, the better the family could be supported.
There's flipping it the other way around.
There's 7 kids going out there and working, local jobs, whatever, from 10 years old, and they're enjoying them. They're not sweatshops, things like that, but they're providing with the family. They're all working together, and
I think that's because my wife, she's Filipino, but I remember going over the.
Did you say one of your wives?
No, my wife.
Oh, just had to clarify that.
My wife, she's Filipino, and I used to go to the Philippines to play footy at like sevens tournaments over there. And I remember we were sort of got familiar with this family, and this kid was like, "I want to show you my swimming pool," and I was like, "Swimming pool?" I looked around, and it didn't seem like a place that would have a swimming pool. And I was like, yeah, so we went around the back of his house, and it was just a hole in the ground that they've dug, and there's just like dirty water in there, and they're just like jumping off and jumping in into it, and like, how good's this swimming pool? And I'm like, yeah, it's the best. Like, it's the best.
That kid is not sitting there comparing that to,
and it's because
the
I
Andrew
know
Boy Charlton pool here in Sydney.
Exactly. And it's only because I know what a swimming pool. Like, who am I to tell him what a swimming pool is? Like, for him, that's his swimming pool.
It's incredible because you brought up knowing what a swimming pool is. He has been brought up like that's a luxury.
Yeah, it's luxury.
And instead of like correcting them on that, just like, hey, how happy is this dude with nothing?
He was like, "Are you coming in?" I'm like, nah.
And that's what I love, because then you get to look there and go, oh wow, I would probably react completely differently if someone offered me a swim, but this dude's found joy in this. And isn't that just beautiful?
It's the best. Yeah, that's what I love about it.
But that doesn't make money. That's
no.
People don't sell those pools, do they?
I'd love to sort of get to know the young Heston. I know there's
I've put him in a compartmentalized box.
Oh, have you?
Burned it.
Because the question I like to start with learning about your childhood is, what's your earliest and happiest childhood memory?
Oh, there's 2 of them. One of them literally is the one that I put in my book, where in kindy down at Holsworthy, Dad was in the army. He turned up. It was just after my birthday, and he turned up to kindy with an APC, armored personnel carrier.
What?
Yeah, mate. It was like the Marrie Quarter patch part, and Dad and his mate turned up with this APC, and gave rides to the kids around the block.
I would have loved it.
I was king of the kids. Dad turned up to school with a tank for my friends. Like, it was so cool.
Were you a popular kid growing up?
As a little kid,
I
was good. Yeah, but I was going to say the second one is T-ball. We used to play T-ball, mate, and I it was so much fun. All that stuff. Primary school, I was good, but then, high school, hated. Like,
why is that?
Parents divorced, and I probably didn't. Back then, it wasn't common, so it was something that was different that I didn't enjoy. At the same time, nature decided that I'd become like obese. I was like 5'6", 80 kilos. I was like the fat kid, but still like
really
Queensland tennis champ. Yeah, it was so random.
Oh, was tennis your sport? Was it?
Tennis was tennis and athletics.
Oh,
Shot put, discus, javelin.
Yeah, love
and
that.
100 meter. Very dangerous over short distances.
Still?
I'm
a pretty good 100 meter.
Be afraid of a
Have a hammy? Yeah.
But then I had a growth spurt grade 10, 11, but the damage was done. Like, I am not in contact with any friends from high school. Like, I didn't have friends. I had one, Melissa, that was like mum's friend's daughter, but I didn't have any friends.
Oh, really?
My best friend was my Nintendo 64. Crushed it. Mario Kart and GoldenEye. But yeah, I really hated high school because it comes down to identity. I didn't know who I was. I decided I wanted to go into the military and into the special forces to prove to everyone and to prove to myself. And yeah, I just was unpopular. And I've always found it hard to build and keep friends and actually find true connections. But
not still to this day, surely.
I tell you what, mate, we know a lot of people. We know a lot of people, but as far as people that I would call true friends, it would barely go over one hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And do you know what I've learned?
Mm.
That's okay.
Yeah, you don't need a lot, do you?
Because little 13, 14-year-old Heston
Yeah.
was like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
But turning 40 this year, Heston, is just like a Commando teammate, quality over quantity
Yeah.
all the way. And it's those people that will have you back when your umbrella collapses out in the middle of a paddock from 50 metres away. Like,
Yeah.
they're the people that are hard to find.
Yeah.
I've always asked my guests, what are your 3 non-negotiables for living a healthy and full life? For me, it's movement, community, and good nutrition. I've learned that what you fill your body with plays a massive role in how you feel physically and mentally. That's why I use True Protein. They're an Aussie brand doing things the right way. Clean, natural supplements with no artificial additives or fillers. Everything's made in-house in Sydney's northern beaches using the highest quality ingredients sourced from around the world. Whether it's supporting energy, improving focus, or reducing fatigue, their products genuinely help me show up better every single day. And just like Mind Your Head, they live by values I stand by. Be true, be you, and take care of your whole self.
Yeah. Did you want to you follow in your father's footsteps or to get in the military?
I think the self-diagnosed mental conundrum here was, fat, unpopular, all the rest at school, and the most aspirational men in my life were my dad and his mates and their families. It was a community based on values. I remember going to a church, carols by candlelight, and this dude collapsed. The next thing, it's dad and his mates are over there, like, just without a blink of an eye, resuscitating the dude, things like that. They were men of action. And my dad was also the guy who taught me, it was okay to cry.
Oh, I love
He
that.
lost his father very young and was raised by his mother and 3 older sisters. And yeah, dad was, rough and tough, taught me how to box, taught me to play rugby, all the rest. But at the same time, very high emotional intelligence. So yeah, I think I saw a lot of the qualities I didn't see in myself. I saw that I would be able to get if I went through the same system. Yeah.
Why did you decide to go to the special forces in particular? I look at it as that's some of the hardest, toughest, training processes in the world.
I think I always knew deep down that I had never been pushed to my limits. I always knew deep down that I was an extremely high performer, but I was never able to prove it. I think probably some of my social issues came from that fact of not having an outlet to channel all of my physicality and mental capacity into. It was fascinating when I rocked up and joined the military as a means to an end to join special forces, and then learned the true art of leadership along the way, really connecting with people that you're responsible for, the pleasure it is to have rank and authority to support those who don't, through to, like I was saying beforehand, the creativeness of military tactics and the application of that.
Yeah. You love that.
Mate, I would love to. My ultimate job, I'd love to go back and be an instructor at the Royal Military College in Canberra.
Is that an option?
Who knows? Under the last Defence Force administration, it wasn't, when they said nothing when I beat the ABC. But I'm getting over that resentment a bit. Between that and the highlight of my career was commanding troops in Afghanistan in combat continuously every day, simply being tested to the true limits, doing what we truly believe was right, and being proven in the most dire of situations. But the greatest satisfaction I probably received was actually running the selection course in my career and then mentoring the next officers and soldiers for the next 10 months after that. There's nothing quite like being able to, 1, use your rank to set the rules and standards, and 2, I guess I will, mentoring, protecting and nurturing people and training them the way, even with tough love as well, training them the way that you wish you had been taught.
I was going to ask you that. Did you change a few things how you were trained?
Yeah, massive.
Oh, did you?
Massive.
Yeah.
Again, it's mindset and philosophy. I remember when I joined the Special Forces, the biggest thing they're trying to drill into us, like your rugby days, mate, everyone has a call sign, what they're called on the radio in the unit, so you don't use names, the enemy doesn't pick it up, blah, blah, blah. So the platoon commander is called the Alpha.
Okay.
Their call sign
Perfect.
Alpha. So I was November platoon, my call sign was November Alpha. And particularly as an officer going through selection Rio, they're like, you need to be the alpha. You need to be the alpha male. You're in charge of these people. They're all going to be more experienced than you, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
And they were. The first platoon I took over, November platoon, I was the youngest.
You were the youngest?
I'd never deployed to the Middle East.
How old were you?
I was 26.
Right.
I'd never deployed to the Middle East. I deployed once to Timor-Leste. And they had just got back from their last deployment in 2011 to Afghanistan, where November platoon tragically had a helicopter crash that killed Tim Applin, Ben Chuck and Scotty Palmer and injured 6 more out of a platoon of 30. And to be there, the selection saying was, you need to be the alpha male, you need to be in charge. I changed it to you need to be the alphabetical male. Like as soon as you are contesting the status of your authority and position and will with someone as opposed to the purpose and the tactics, you've lost your way. Like the weakest leaders are those who have to rely on authority and have to rely on the letter A.
My way or the highway type thing.
Like the role of a leader is to unite people with purpose, period. You need to learn and understand your people and what scale along the alphabet at that day, at that position, you may need to put yourself because you are subordinate to the purpose.
Yeah. So what are the different roles of leaders?
At the end of the day, for me, the role of a leader, purely and simply, is to unite people with purpose.
Okay.
That is it. Particularly for me in the special forces. So everyone has their own specialty in the team. Could it be driver, demolitions, shooter, whatever. My specialty was planning and leadership. And, you know, you trained, you know, I had to do 4 years at the Defence Academy and Duntroon before I could even command 30 people in the infantry. Like it's a very mature process. But yeah, it's that leadership. There are the fundamentals of leadership. Like as a leader, you manage people, you have authority to accept and delegate responsibility. But leadership is this skill that I love. You can't buy it at 7-Eleven with a can of Coke, you know. You can't download it on the internet with an app. But everyone knows leadership because you can feel it, like when it hits. It's this intrinsic motivation you tap into people. And leaders who rely on authority, it's a stick or carrot, whereas leadership is motivating people through inspiration at that intrinsic level so that they carry on even without you. And it's just knowing and understanding your people and knowing and understanding your job. And at the end of the day, it's being the impact player. It's knowing when to inject yourself, to lead by example, to do it.
Yeah.
And so often, particularly, I think I come from this in a very different perspective where I got to, like, unlike many people, I got to do the job for real. I got to literally go out hunting bad people for days on end, for missions on end. And there are a lot of my brethren, officers within the military who never got to do that, but feel like they could have, would have, and should have done that. And there is some resentment and inferiority complex they carry. But once you've achieved that and you know you don't have anything left to prove, it's such a different, peaceful state of mind.
That's it.
And the greatest enjoyment I ended up getting was standing back and letting some of my junior commanders take over. And where they'd look to me for decisions, I'd be like, this is all you. And like, instead of feeling like I needed to justify myself further, you know, and take the accolades and show them my impressive leadership, create the space for them to trial and error.
Yeah, it's almost like removing that micromanaging that I know that a lot of leaders do. Is like they don't want you to sort of make your own decisions, whereas what you're saying there, you want, you know.
Well, it's in the footy term, mate. It's like, you know, you're at the 10 there's an open goal and it's choosing to pass to your mate because you know, you know, he is you're going to empower him through scoring the points and him getting his face in the paper.
And that's the thing that when you're talking about, you know, your leadership, being a good leader is like the impact player. And I think about one of the best captains I've had was that he hardly ever talked, but when he did talk, all of us would just shut up. And every time he said something, everyone would listen and they would just do exactly what he said. But other than that, he wouldn't really talk that much. But on the field, like, he was just led by his actions all the time. And I loved it. Everyone followed him. Everyone got in his back and would do anything for him.
And that's the beautiful part, particularly about footy or special forces. You can talk the talk, but unless you can walk the walk, you know, that's what all counts. And that's where I definitely empathise with, you know, people watching this and leaders today who don't get that chance. But the whole thing is, it's everything you do is an action. The way you welcome people in the morning, the way you know, send an email to someone, the way you articulate what you're going to say, the way you dress, the way you look people in the eye when you talk to them. It's all actions that people can be aware of and take responsibility for. And it's just, I mean, again, one of my favorite bits of knowledge I'd impart to the next officers is like, your job is to train up people to be better than you. You know, if you're holding on to things because you want to be in charge or you want to be the one scoring tries, that'll get you so far. But the satisfaction I have felt from knowing I've trained up people with all that I've learned, and hopefully because they're naturally better, they're going to be better than me.
Must be such a proud moment.
Well, it's about the purpose, mate. Like, our job is to put, you know, the best run-on team to represent the nation and bring the guys back safe and sound. It's letting go. At the end of the day, it's letting go of ego.
Yeah.
It's letting go of ego, you know.
For men, that's a hard thing to do.
It is, but again, that's where I think I have had the benefit of, unfortunately, seeing some of the best people I never thought were going to die in some of the worst ways. You know, ego's only get you so far. Like, what is the purpose? Like, what's the
cost of it? Yeah, exactly.
And what's your responsibility to achieve that purpose?
Can you walk us through one of the most vivid memories from your time overseas? Maybe something that's changed you forever.
Yeah, I think the day that I lost Corporal Scott Smith, and I say I lost because at the end of the day, when you're the commander, like, you're responsible. And Scott's life, the 21st of October 2012, we're on a 3-day clearance in the Kajaki Fan in the Helmand province, and we pushed forward. Scott was pushed forward. He was a special engineer. We were taking fire from this compound. This compound ended up having all sorts of IED componentry through it, and Scott identified that straight away, and he instructed the commando gunner who was near him to stay back while he went forward to clear a doorway, and he detonated an IED which killed him in the most terrible way. You know, we spent the next 3 hours collecting all that we could of Scott, from a limb through to 5-cent coins size of him on the ground over a 300-meter period, all the while when that explosion went off in the dust and dirt of Afghanistan, it sent a giant smoke signal up for every enemy in the area to press their advantage. And I love giving speeches when people talk about the Anzac myth and all the rest. It's like, that day I watched half a platoon of commandos stand and fight off an enemy who wanted to press their advantage, while the other half, big burly men on hands and knees, you know, picking up bits and pieces of their mate and putting him in a Ziploc bag so we could send him home.
Far out.
And I was the leader. And I remember when that happened, I was like, I should be up front yelling, barking orders. I should be in there, you know, taking the fight, shooting my share of bad guys, leading by example. I stepped back and watched, and I put my ego aside, and I allowed myself to be inspired by the guys who I didn't need to tell them that we needed to, you know, fight on to, you know, bring Scott honour. We knew it. We were doing our job. And then my job was to, once the fighting died down, sure, I'm doing my coordination and bringing in some assets from the sky and all the rest as well. But, you know, then the job was to read my team and see the emotion that was bubbling up on them, because up until that point, we'd never lost anyone. We'd never even had a serious injury. We had one person evacuated with a bee sting during a mission. I literally had to call in a helicopter to casualty evacuation, so I'm off a mission.
He would have got a lot of shit for that, didn't he?
Mazarenko.
Was he allergic or something?
Yeah, we found out. He didn't know. Afghan bees, they'll get you. But we had felt like Superman. I had felt like Superman. And then all of a sudden I started to see some people considering their own mortality. And we still had 2 more days out there in the same mission with an enemy who'd just proven that they could kill one of our absolute best. And my job was to do my job, to bring everyone in and show them the plan, revise the plan, do my specialty, connect with them, remind them what our purpose was as their own ego and emotions were coming up, and to refocus us to make sure that we conducted ourselves safely and effectively moving forward. And it wasn't, you know, and it's not the corporate pep talk. At that point, guys have literally just been picking up parts of their mate. You can't say, all right, guys, I'm in charge, listen to me. It's like, they'll listen to you or they won't. And all the preparation you've done to put into culture beforehand is what counts. But still in that moment, you have to cut through to the personal side of people, which particularly in the commandos, particularly in special forces, particularly military, you're not taught to tap into your emotions. You suppress your emotions. There's no room for emotions, as opposed to how inspired you can be by those emotions. One of the biggest issues for most of us transitioning out of the military is all of a sudden enjoying the feeling of emotions and not allowing them to control you. But yeah, the art of it is controlling those emotions and harnessing them into what you need to do. And that is leadership, and that is realigning people to purpose.
Do you process that day, that moment in real time, or do you have to wait till you get back to fully process what had happened?
Well, particularly for me, like, you know, there's another 39 guys in the platoon, and we just encountered the most dangerous threat that you can't punch an IED in the face, you can't shoot it in the face. You know, it's out there and it can hit you. And it was a real threat. So it was, you know, one dead soldier can very easily turn into more, especially in that setting. So it's really needing to do a full analyse of where we're at, what we're doing, what do we need to change. At the same time, the enemy's doing the same thing, through to, the gravity of the situation. I don't know, mate, you're so well trained, and without even realising your ability to appreciate the situation, you know, we're needing to send Scott home, and then back home, all these notification processes will be going on. And it was the first time on any deployment where the unit that had suffered a casualty hadn't been returned back to base in the next 24 hours. So what that means is that the notification process for his family would have occurred, and then the news would have communicated that someone had died. But none of us were able to communicate with our families for another 3 days. So each of our families is at home.
All thought the same thing. Far out.
It's incredible. And this is all the stuff you process afterwards, but this is the stuff that's starting to process in my head, and you just have to push it all aside, because all of a sudden, you know, you have to be present and in the moment. You can't.
You haven't got another choice.
You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not present in the moment, that is when the smallest
slip up
occurs. Yeah.
You know, you've talked about like the split seconds that, you know, the decisions that soldiers have to make.
Yeah.
This might be a tricky question, and
Do
you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. But, you know, has there been a moment where you've regretted not pulling the trigger?
No.
No.
I was very quick on the trigger.
There was never regret. You know, in the military, do you regret anything that you've done?
Yeah, there's regret around particularly my relationship with my boss during that deployment, and even circumstances that led up to Scott being in that compound that I'm not happy with, because I was still in a phase of my career of wanting to progress in my career, and I always put those with higher rank to me on a pedestal, you know, given it is a hierarchical system, as opposed to, you know, right is right and wrong is wrong. And that was just a maturity piece for me. You know, I was 27 in Afghanistan, and, you know, there's part of Heston that always wanted to be liked. I was always usually liked by my guys as well as leading them. But the hierarchies are some of the ones I really had difficulties with, because I was very good at my job and also very good at sort of the soldier skills as well. I don't know. I always found this wedge formed, but yeah, I regret my handling of those relationships, and, to be honest, just not representing myself as an adult and instead representing myself as my rank, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Do you feel like Australia as a whole didn't quite understand what you and your team went through over there?
The greatest testament to that was when Afghanistan fell in, what was it, 2002? The fact that, you know, our Australia's longest conflict was left to journalists and members of the public asking, was it worth it? Like, we didn't take people on the journey. And that's the saddest thing to me. And my grandfather said the same thing coming out of Vietnam. You know, we didn't take people on the journey. Australia's men and women perform so magnificently. And the fact that it's been left to things like this absolute shambles of a nepotistic, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, nepotistic. Brereton report through a guy who shouldn't even be the National Corruption Commissioner, through to all the rest. Like, it's just, it's a real shame. But I also now have more patience and know that enough people on the ground do know it just takes time to come out.
So we'll get into that, because, you know, the fight for you, I guess, didn't end when you've left the military. And for the people listening, and please correct me if I'm wrong,
I'll do it.
Who isn't across sort of what happened? I think it was in 2021. the ABC published a story alleging potential war crimes involving you and your unit.
2020.
2020?
2020, yeah.
You
On
don't.
the exact day that was the anniversary of Scott's death. So they published that article on the 21st of October.
That's not a
2020.
coincidence, is it?
You tell me, especially what we've seen through the federal court.
That's a big finger to the face, isn't it? Like,
It's especially when they go and publish the platoon name. One person from that platoon died. Like it's on public record. So they're either pathetic journalists, which we know,
yeah.
or it was just continuous. It was part of their malicious campaign. Yeah.
So I don't understand this. You won. You took him to court. You won.
Yeah.
I don't understand, and I've trying to get my head around this. What were they thinking? Why would they, give false evidence, like manipulate evidence,
Yeah.
to throw you guys under the bus, to frame you guys?
Yeah.
Was it just to sell a story? Was it just to put their name out there? I don't understand why.
This is the question. A lot of people try and say, I'd come out really strong in the media the couple of months beforehand and really taken a torch to
Yeah, I loved it.
the Department of Veterans Affairs and all that. My dad loves to say that it's all a coordinated attack on you, but who knows, mate? You know what? Hopefully one day it all does come out.
Yeah, because I looked at all the.
Yeah, you can't sit here going down the rabbit warrens, because it'll lead you down a dark path.
I was just trying to figure out at home. I was just going, what was their motive, or what were they trying to understand, or is it just the cost of too much information, where we're just information's, all these media outlets are competing against each other for information, who's first. And I think I heard somewhere like the cost of too much information it doesn't have to be true anymore.
It doesn't.
It just has to be first.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
they just want to sell it, send it out first. It doesn't even matter, it has to be true. They don't care who they hurt,
Yeah.
who lives they destroy. It's not just, and it's a crazy thing when you name someone publicly.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah, it's not the good old days of pinning a poster up in the town square. It stays on the internet forever.
It stays on the internet forever.
People can still look up. The Guardian still has a story published saying, failed Senate candidate Heston Russell allegedly shot at civilians from a helicopter, even after we showed, 1, the ABC added gunshots, and 2, Heston wasn't even the one shooting. And I've written to them, and they have no obligations to ever take that story down. It can sit there in perpetuity.
It's fucking wild.
Because you're also dealing with people who, these days, this is where I feel we've lost our ways. They don't have the values, they don't have the morals or the ethics to say, hey, let's take it down, it's wrong. Instead, the intent is like, nah, let's just have it there in case anyone reads it and continues to smear him.
Exactly, just for clickbait.
And they default to what they have to do legally as opposed to what they should do simply as good humans.
Morally.
Yeah. We've lost that. So there is no moral or ethical accountability in Australia. It is all legal and litigious. And people, journalists in particular, have learned if they can get away with it, they can get away with it. They can appoint their own person to review it and say that it was an editing error. It's just, you understand.
Blows my mind.
You understand why back in the day, mate, we had, lynch mobs and tar and feathering.
Yeah.
I'm not inciting any form of violence, to be perfectly clear. But
what kind of toll did that have on you mentally during that whole, all those years of, court dates and the media scrutiny? And it was almost like, I don't know if this is what it felt like for you, but for me watching it, it almost like you were guilty and you had to prove your innocence.
That's it. But the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
And that's, we're brought up with these, I love it. Media will espouse these values, freedom of speech. It's like, what about, freedom to be tried, innocent before guilty, innocent until proven guilty and all the rest. It fractured my brain. It broke my brain, quite literally. Going from a system in the military where, particularly in the special forces, like you weren't even allowed to have a social media account. And you were held to such a standard where I remember back at my Defence Force Academy days, I remember once I was late to reporting back in after leave. I left my room unlocked. I had my ID on my bed and I had one of my shirts out from the cupboard unironed. I was charged 4 times, each one for those separate occasions, anywhere from 7 days extra duties to 14 days loss of pay.
Wow.
They were the standards we were held to. And particularly in the military, particularly in the commandos, integrity. If you were ever caught on an integrity issue, you were kicked out. Like integrity, if you had done something, you were expected to fess up first before anyone ever found you. Because if you ever were found for integrity, the biggest
It's the worst.
black market.
It is,
chat.
isn't it? That's what I remember
So
going through.
Going from those standards to, hey, just exposed that you've added 5 extra shots to footage and circled extra people and zoomed in. And instead of having the integrity to say, hey, yeah, we did that, it's like, oh no, it was an editing error. And you're only doing that because you know you can get away with it litigiously and because you can paint your own gaslighting picture. I'm just like, where is the honor of these people?
And the potential to ruin your life and ruin your your soldiers'
don't
lives.
care.
Yeah,
They do not
the
care.
family's life. Like,
And it's not even smart. Like, who do they think they're taking on?
you have the evidence yourself, so you're like, I have
Like,
everything.
It's my helmet camera. Idiots.
Yeah, it
But
blows
look,
my mind.
And trust me, there's a part where, I don't want to say nasty things on here, but like there's a part where, like I told you beforehand, mate, the shit I've been trained to do and have done to some very bad people, only to have these spineless twats sitting
Cowards.
in keyboard cowards sitting in a taxpayer-funded building, manufacturing this and dodging accountability left, right, and center. It just stirs up this anger and rage within you, and to be honest, it's been the everyday public that's helped me get over it.
Good.
To accept it. It's been people randomly walking up to me on the street or having dinner and someone just coming in and say, hey, I just want to shake your hand for the way you've handled this. And please know, like, we the people know. Those politicians I've tried to get to take some action and have told me, to take on the ABC is career suicide for them. Like, you're a coward and you know who you are. And all that I've put it down to now is what I've learned through time and wisdom and experience and heartache is that karma is a bitch and she slapped hard. And you can't sit around waiting for it. But these people have to live with themselves. And random people who see people like Mark Willisey and Josh Robertson on the street, I'm sure will remind them of that. I've had veterans message me saying, I saw that spineless twat. And again, not to incite violence, but, they have kids or they'll one day have kids who'll have to know just the cowards that their fathers were and the organisation that we all pay for.
It blows my mind that the things that you and your mates went through overseas and putting your lives at risk and the heroics and the things that you guys have seen and witnessed, which is what you're signed up for. I get that. But to come back to a country that to label you guys, as war criminals, that's pissed me off. So I can't imagine how that would make you feel.
I appreciate that. And I love it. It actually segues nicely back to what we said at the start about these labels pieces. Because I was so worried about that label. I was so worried about what other people thought. It's going back to me saying I'm happy with a handful of friends. Like, at the end of the day, the only thing you can hope for in this world is like that you're happy with the part you're playing in it, and to constantly look for other people's validation and affirmation of that, unless it's because you're actually doing the right thing. Everyone's going to have their opinions. The media is always going to have a bigger microphone than you. All that you can do is show your character through actions. We get so hung up on what someone says about you. It's like, I love it. I get random people saying, where was I? I was out at, I won't drop places in, but it's like, oh, that's that war criminal. In the gay community, like some dude's cracking on to me and he goes back to his mate and his mate's like, oh, that's that war criminal. It's like, you can't control what people say about you and you can't care. And who cares? Everyone is entitled to their opinions. And there are those who commentate on the actions of others and there are those who are out there contributing to life. So just be someone who contributes for the right reasons.
What do you see the long-term implications of this case in terms of, or do you see any at all, in terms of the media and how they report stories and journalism in itself?
My sad realization is actually it's proven that they can do whatever they want.
And get away with it.
Yeah. That's honestly the biggest fear. Where I went into this saying, hey, if you think you can do this to me, I'm going to make sure you can never do it to anyone else. And I'm worried that it's proven they can do it to anyone else. Who
Scary.
doesn't have the training and skills that I had, who didn't have the platform that I had, who didn't have the support that I had. This could have very easily killed someone. And I don't say that lightly because my family and friends have known how much it hurt me along the way. So that's my very real fear. But having said that, if I ever see them do it to someone else, I'll be the first person in there.
Yeah, in their corner. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If you could, I don't know if you thought about this, you probably have. If you could sit down with the ABC's newsroom leaders and have a conversation with them and, tell them one truth that you've learnt during this process when it comes to fairness or, justice, what would you...
They're too far gone.
You
They
reckon?
they don't care. They have had every opportunity, even at the end of the case, mate, just to apologise.
They didn't.
Just to apologise. They have gaslighted and saying we issued an apology. They did not issue an apology when in the federal court they published documents saying that I was shooting unarmed hostages out of a helicopter, and they refused to. They are fantastic at this gaslighting piece. Justin Stevens, the head of ABC News, has sat and sent estimates and, in my opinion, lied his face off, telling this gaslighting apology that they provided. And you just know, and this is a great email I got from someone last year saying, Heston, why do you continue to ask for an apology from people you don't respect? They are so far gone that I do not respect them enough to even sit down and try and give them any more words, because their actions have demonstrated they care about themselves and themselves alone.
It'd be pointless.
No, I would rip the funding out of them and make them a subscription service tomorrow. As in, the ABC is important. Why are they not paid for by a subscription service by everyone else? Why is every Australian taxpayer forking out $70 or $90 a year for that? Survive on your own 2 feet and prove your actions instead of being propped up by the public purse. That's what I would do.
This episode is brought to you by TLC Recovery Centre on the Sunshine Coast. Whether you're chasing peak performance or just need to reset, TLC has everything you need. Infrared saunas to help detox your body, reduce inflammation, improve circulation and calm the nervous system, leaving you feeling lighter, clearer and more recovered after every session. They've got cold plunges to reduce inflammation, boost mood and mental clarity and build resilience. They've got compression boots to speed up muscle repair and massage therapists who know exactly what your body needs. But what really sets TLC apart? The people. The owners are the kind of good humans you want in your corner. Down to earth, genuinely care and deeply invested in the local community. Head to TLC Sunshine Coast, use the code TLC15MYH to receive 15% off and experience it for yourself.
One of the topics I love to get into is you've written and you've spoken openly about your own mental health. My own journey with my own mental health, I hit rock bottom in 2017 where I tried to take my own life. It was, for years I struggled with anxiety, the noise in my head. I never spoken about it, but you talk about sort of high school, puberty. Like I was so inside my own head. I struggled making friends in terms of, I was such a people pleaser, and I put on a mask. I just wanted people to like me, and I'd do anything I possibly could. Oh, you guys like that band? I like that band too. I don't like that music, but I was always changing myself. I was constantly changing myself to fit in with people and to have friends. And then I think that's why I leaned so far into sport, because I felt wanted. I had that external validation, like, oh, pick Elliot first for the team. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. I've got friends.
But isn't that funny, mate? It's the difference between words and actions.
Yeah. And it wasn't.
We try to fit in with our words.
Yeah. And then I think I never really got into sort of drugs and alcohol. And then around 20, you sort of get into the footy scene. And I remember taking drugs for the first time. And it was probably one of the most euphoric feelings I had ever felt up until that point, because all the noise stops. Like people,
lose the inhibitions.
People would take drugs and go to parties and go to raves and stuff. I took it. It always put me to sleep because it silenced all the noise. I felt calm. I felt relaxed. And that became addictive for me. I just loved that feeling. And as soon as it sort of wore off, I was like, fuck, it's back to me and my brain again, like me and my thoughts. And, that was a slippery slope, because I was trying to play professional rugby, but, on the, behind closed doors, Friday to Sunday, I was taking drugs the whole time to try to like silence the noise. And then it got to a point where, I was blaming a lot of people for, different things that happened in my life. Whereas, I got injured and I blamed someone else, or I lost that under contract and I blamed someone else for, I was always pointing the finger at everyone else. And it wasn't until, I lost everything. Like I lost a contract, I lost a relationship. There's so many breakdowns in my life. And I remember going out with some of the rugby guys who had no idea that I was struggling that much. And then they all wanted to go home. It was like 4 a.m. and I was like, I'm not going home. Like I want this high to keep going. I never want it to end. Life was that, like for me.
Sorry, I laugh because I know the feeling.
And I remember like having like a handful of drugs, and I remember like, I was singing about it for years before. Like I would go drive home from footy training and a little thought would be like, oh, maybe you should do it. And then I was thinking, oh, that's a weird thing to think about. But then because I didn't act on it and didn't like be proactive around, speaking to someone, I just let it fester. And then all of a sudden it was happening, 2 or 3 times a week, and then I would think about how would I do it, and it was to the point where I was thinking about it, how I would do it, so my mum and dad could still say goodbye to me.
Yeah, wow.
That's how normal it was, you know. And it wasn't until that night where I just took a handful of drugs, and if I died, I died. If I didn't, back to square one again. Like, and I remember like waking up like that afternoon, like I'd piss myself, I'd like vomit everywhere, and even then, like I was in denial.
Yeah,
I was fully in denial. I didn't talk to anyone about it. Just I had a big bender that that day, and it wasn't until later that year where I ended up being in hospital pretty much for the same reasons. I checked myself into hospital, and I had all my money was gone. Like all my money was on drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, wow.
Couldn't even pay for the hospital visit. I had to call mum and dad from the hospital saying, "Hey, can you just transfer me $200?" And they're like, "It's 4 a.m. What are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm in hospital." And mum and dad kind of knew, like they could tell that I was sort of in a downward spiral. I don't think they knew how bad it was, but on that phone call, just like dad was like, "You good?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Then there's a pause there, and I could tell that he knew, and he knew that I knew, and even then, like we still didn't say anything to each other. But I remember, vividly remember being in hospital, and a lot of people go through rehab, and I went and saw a psychologist about it, my therapist, but I remember being in that hospital bed, and there was like a flick that just switched straight away. That my parents came over from New Zealand, raised 3 boys, worked their asses off, same job for 40 years. Like so present in my life. Yeah. Took me all the footy trainings, all the sport events, like was so loving and caring. And that's how I was going to repay them, because I was so scared to like face my fears or figure out what's going on, like what's going on with me. I was so scared to figure out, like go down the rabbit hole and see how much worms are down there. Like I was so frightened of it. Yeah. And obviously reading.
What age was this?
Oh, this was 28.
Okay.
This was 28.
Gotcha.
And even though I was still trying to play footy, I was still trying to figure out, who I am, what I am, why am I like this? I didn't understand why I was reacting, certain situations. And I've gone down that road of, concussions, and I've gone to the Macquarie University here in Sydney, concussion clinic there, try to get answers, because I was really frightened of I had some sort of, CTE from all the concussions, or if it was a little bit deeper than that, dad's side is a lot of bipolar and schizophrenia on dad's side. Yeah. And I knew something was up, and I was sick of almost, self-sabotaging, imploding. Yeah. And it wasn't until, I went and got some answers and understood, like they put me on a spectrum of bipolar. But even then I questioned that weirdly, because I always think like, have I got it, or if I haven't been taught to self-regulate, understand my emotions, self-regulate myself, because I've never been able to. Situations that I remember, look back at it now, I have a laugh about it, but situations that would trigger me or get me frustrated, I look back at it now, I would just succumb to it. Like I would just get angry so quickly all the time. I was always angry. Yeah. And always like confrontational at people. Like if someone said something, that wasn't insulting, but I've taken it as insult, I would just arc up straight away. Yeah. Like I didn't ruin relationships, but a lot of people were like, fuck, Elliot's a bit moody.
Was your emotions controlling you?
Oh, big time. Yeah. They had all the control. I felt like the reason I think I was addicted to drugs so much, because I felt like I was in control of the emotions, because when I took the drugs, the emotions went away. And I was like, yes, I'm finally in control.
Well, you were empowered by the emotions.
Yeah.
As opposed to controlled by them. Yeah. I'm with you.
And I guess like hearing your story, how I guess in your own way, you're sort of wearing masks, and hiding sort of that side of you in terms of your sexuality, which is, I would love to get to a point in time where people don't have to come out. With respect, like I feel like that's such a label we put on people, and it's almost defined by that. And I felt so sorry for you that you had to sort of hide that version of yourself.
Well, it's like, first things first, thanks for sharing that whole piece with me. Like, what did you learn from it? Like you went, that's a pretty massive thing to, 1, live through, 2, acknowledge, and then 3, have the perspective to look back on it.
The first thing I had to learn, and I talked to my therapist about this, is the reason I was searching for external validation and to be liked is because I thought if enough people liked me, then I would start liking myself. Yeah. Right. So the core of it was how I viewed myself. Yeah. I thought I was a complete loser for years, and I think about it now. You know, when I would have conversations with people when I was at school or, you know, early 20s, I would go home and analyze everything I said in that conversation and go, you're a loser. Why'd you say that for? Like, you're not funny. What are you trying to be funny for? Like, I was always having that internal dialogue that I was my own worst enemy.
Yeah.
I was never my best friend, ever. You know, even when I was playing footy, like I'll come off and they, oh, you had a good game. And I went, no, I did this shit. I did this shit. I did this shit. I was so hypercritical of myself where I just didn't have a healthy relationship with myself. I didn't love the things that made me me. I always
self-acceptance.
I just
with
that was the biggest thing that I learnt from that is, and from that moment forward, it was such a slow process. But that moment forward is to embrace who you are and start loving yourself for who you are. You know, and lean and don't compromise yourself for anyone else. I remember I would just say yes. Oh, I'll do things that I didn't want to do or things that compromise my values or, you know, certain things in my life. And I draw a line in the sand. I was like, these are the things that I stand for, that I love, that makes me me.
Yeah.
I'm going to let go of friends, and friendships did end. And I took myself out of certain situations and environments that were making me a worse person.
I think from an early age, you know, even going through school, like, I don't know, maybe it's just me watching a lot of TV growing up. You got, you know, you're taught there are the cool kids. There's like, you even use the word loser. Like, we don't know this expression until we find it from somewhere. And then straight away, we're so fearful of ever being a loser.
Yes.
And then particularly for people like yourself and myself, who at the end of the day, it comes down to being perfectionists. Like, your brain operates just a little bit differently. And to be honest, I've learned to harness that, and being a perfectionist has helped me in everything. We've also got to be able to calm it as well. I've done very similar things to what you've done trying to do that. But yeah, I think it's so relative in like what you're taught, what you learn, what you take on board, and what you lead your life comparing yourself to. Whereas my biggest thing these days is like, just learn to be, you know, Elliot, learn to be Heston. Like, and what that is, I appreciate that very few people will take the time to learn who and what that is, but you've got to be the one that accepts it and that imposes your own standards and make sure that like happiness and fulfillment is one of them. Even when you're coming back to the whole gay question, like, I didn't accept myself. I never had a role model to look up to in the military. This is the hilarious, I will have this joke with you. I find it quite funny. So I'm literally the only openly gay Special Forces officer in the entire of Australia.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Still
and
to this day.
And the ABC attacked me. I could be their biggest fucking rainbow spokesperson. One that's
the pin-up boy.
One that's not me. It's funny, when Blake and I brought Barry's here, we partnered with the Fitness and Lifestyle Group, the people who owned Fitness First and all that. And they're like, so Heston, the marketing team's been chatting and we want to do this advertising campaign calling you the gay Commando. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, one, I'm done with labels, and two, I never mixed the two together. But it's like, what you brought up around, I never met someone who was the version of gay that I was comfortable with and was also in the Special Forces. And, you know, I couldn't deploy to places like Iran, Russia, all the rest, where it's illegal to be gay if I was gay. Like, there's all these other aspects to it that, again, put my personal preference subordinate to what was the purpose that made me the most happiest and fulfilled. But there is something to be said that when I accepted myself, I became a better version of me.
You did.
When
did you
2015, I was posted over to the US for a year with their Special Forces. I was on exchange to the Ranger Regiment in Columbus, Georgia.
Not a bad posting.
It was good. Atlanta was an hour north. It was fun. But I had a lot of time. America has a lot of 3-day weekends, and the Rangers always turned it into a 4-day weekend. So I got to travel a lot, and I started seeing this dude out in LA and living this completely separate life. And I started meeting people like my friend Kevin, who were just professional, accomplished, kind people. And then someone else had to tell me they were gay. I was like, what? Like,
you had no idea.
No. It wasn't the entitled or defined by your sexuality that I had encountered back here in Australia from the very limited interactions that I'd had. And again, I'd suffered the error of generalizing as well. So that's when I finally went to go, oh, cool. 1, I don't have to be defined by it. 2, I can be my own version of it. And 3, it's up to me to decide. And I did. And that's what I told my mum and my sister. But it still was completely irrelevant to my career
Mm.
and the purpose that fulfilled me. So I kept myself in the closet,
Mm.
excuse me, and it's only when I really got out 2018, 2019 that I just started
Decided,
being
yeah.
less secretive.
Yeah. Did anyone know in the military?
A lot of people try to say afterwards that no one know,
No one knew.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's, I've asked myself, is this a homophobic thing to say? I take great pride in people being surprised that I'm gay or not knowing that I'm gay, because one, it just demonstrates that my sexuality doesn't define me.
Mm.
And two, it means that I'm just not, playing into a stereotype. But three, it's a question for them. And I go like, well, what is gay? What is straight?
Exactly.
Going back to your.
Exactly.
And mate, it was actually some of my special forces buddies who are the ones who said to me, it's like, because they are just such smart philosophical people as well. They are honestly super soldiers, mate. They're just superhumans. Where they're like, you being gay has really made me wonder. It's like, why do people have to come out? Why have we created this environment where people feel like they need to kind of ask permission, if not apologize for their sexuality, as opposed to like, I don't come out and say, hey, I'm straight.
Exactly.
But I'm like, but it's also, we're transitioning from phases and state. And it's interesting because this is actually the way society used to be. I think it was Queen Victoria or something who made like buggery and homosexuality illegal because she was worried about her husband or some shit. It's when religion's taken to politics in the modern era of the Western world. But they're great. I love these philosophical conversations.
Yeah.
And again, mate, it was my Commando guys who said to me, one of them in particular said, the fact that you were investing any percentage of your energy into feeling you needed to suppress anything about you while still performing at the elite levels we performed at is quite incredible.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Was that
And it takes energy.
you talk about being authentic and leadership,
Yes.
and like you said just then, it takes energy to hide that side of yourself.
Yeah.
Yet you're still performing at the highest level.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have been a better leader if you?
Yes.
You do?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The key thing to note here is that in the military and the special forces, you don't lead with emotion.
Yes.
There is always a professional layer over, even if it is hurting you deep down, you're on with a mission.
All right.
Start comparison to what we'll call politics, not leadership, in this world where people who are seen to be emotional and dramatic gets more engagement. But it's the stoic form of leadership is the military kind of leadership because you're dealing with life and death decisions. You're dealing with blood and gore. You're dealing with all sorts of things. You're not dealing with the economics of the world whittled down to what is the price of eggs sort of conversations that are being managed by staffers, not by the actual leaders themselves. So it is very different, but I am a better leader now. And the transition piece comes from putting energy into suppress any part of you, becoming truly authentic through accepting yourself and appreciating not everyone has to accept you, but not requiring people to accept you, requiring people to accept the purpose because again, leader connect people with purpose, and being able to, there comes a part when you're no longer worried about something about you and worried about those emotions. It's the difference between the emotions controlling you and you controlling your emotions. And acknowledging, everyone still gets emotional. I definitely still get frustrated and all the rest, but I've just developed this mindset now where you like acknowledge the emotion and you're like, hey, am I acting off that emotion? And I found that to be harder when I was putting energy into worrying about what other people were seeing or perceiving of me instead of just simply what I am in the moment. Like it removes this extra ricochet round of something going off inside your head. And instead it's like authentic action and it's not. And there are still errors, but it's so much less in here, man.
Did you reach a rock bottom?
Oh, I have a couple of times. The biggest rock bottom I ever hit was during the court case, 2003. Biggest rock bottom. Came back from overseas, came back from partying with some mates for LA Pride, I was just so wound up, emotional, angry, getting everything ready for the court stuff, to then 2002, to then going and just having the most joyful time around people who knew nothing about me, but were the friends I'd known for so long, and just celebrated Heston. And then I immediately came back to just being attacked again for some random shit. And my nervous system just, I remember I lost like 5 kilos of fluid. I just remember I was ripped like a cheetah. Like, it was just so incredible how my body like dumped this fluid. It was really fascinating to see. But I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to die. I just literally thought that I had broken something in my brain. Oh, that's right. I came back for my nana's funeral as well. All these things just happened. My nervous system just shot out. And I've spoken to some veterans, and they talk about, falling into the hole. You just feel like you're in a hole, and it feels like you're never going to get out of it. And you just feel like something's snapped, and this is going to be you for the rest. And all of these things you've taken for granted, but never having ever stumbled in my mental health once beforehand, just like, holy cow. I wasn't eating right. I was doping myself up on coffee. I was doing all these sorts of things. And
how'd you get out of it?
I had some incredible friends who helped me get out of it. Everything from, the medicine that was food they put back into me, through to, the sustenance, the routine that I just slowly got myself into. Like, I just thought, like, I'm never going to go to the gym again. Like, I never wanted to touch another weight again. My body just felt so weak. I was done. I did embark upon a journey of psilocybin that I will happily say helped incredibly.
What's that?
Magic mushroom, psilocybin.
Oh, did ya?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I thought I was gone. I thought I was done, and I found a friend who
brought you back.
Expertised in all this. And it didn't bring you back. It just helps you. Yeah, it helped me to. Psilocybin is fantastic for. It's approved now through psychiatrists for medication-resistant anxiety and depression, and then in large doses, the sort of hero dose journey where you can actually go and, basically meditate at, a very sort of deep level, and it helps you just sort of remember who you are. And my biggest issue was I was just constantly in the fight, looking forward, and I completely felt hollow. I felt like what I was right here and now was inadequate for what was coming up. And I was so frustrated where I was here and now, and I didn't see a great path forward. Instead of remembering all of the skills and experiences that I have had and brought to me, you felt empty, and it just helped me fill back up. During that time, I was actually editing my book as well, and literally going back and rereading my own book was fascinating, because particularly when we're in stress, when we're in trauma, we compartmentalize things. And I had just forgotten all this. I was reading back through my selection course, reading back through the...
Did this actually happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because so much of my life has played out in a very public way, and I've had so many of these conversations, and you end up talking about yourself like you're a character.
Yeah.
And it starts to make it feel not real. Some stories I feel like, did that actually happen, or is that a story I made up? Like, you have these weird...
Especially when you keep telling it over and over again, it's just like, it becomes almost repetitive.
Yeah. And the book that I wrote, mate, was as much as a personal journey and therapy, where even finishing that thing and publishing it and having it out there, like, there's stuff in there that, even my mum was wincing at. It's like, do you really need to put this in here? It's like, it happened. I don't care. It's
almost like your own personal journal entry, isn't it?
It's
like,
amazing. It's authentic. Like, it talks about, my struggles through sexuality, through drugs, through combat, through all these things. And I wish I read that when I was at my rock bottom. And I did read that when I was at my rock bottom, and it helped me feel more human, as opposed to feeling like you're an alien who's just experienced these weird emotions and can't get outside of your own head.
Exactly. Do you feel like you're a very resilient person?
I am now.
You are now.
I always have been, because I've always been able to, a lot of my purpose has been never to show weakness in front of others and all the rest, and to prove that I'm the best. But now it's just coming back to appreciating what is real and what matters. Yeah.
We've got 5 minutes.
Oh, countdown's on.
Ish. 5 minutes ish.
Let's
I've
do
got
it.
some quick fire questions to finish off. So you can answer these quickly.
Oof.
Well, we got, a couple of minutes. So
yeah.
You've led in life or death scenarios. What's the single leadership principle that you carry into personal life that offers the others might find surprising?
I think it's what I said before. The role of a leader is to unite people with purpose. At the end of the day, like, what is the reason why you're there? And is it, if it's you and your ego, you're wrong. And that comes down to being that impact player. Like, even in combat, some of the best missions I ever led were from the back sitting on a hill, because you're enabling your people to do their job and you're in the place where you are best supporting them. And that is swallowing that ego pill and putting the team and mission first.
What are your 3 non-negotiables for living a healthy and full life?
Or exercise, movement, just call it that. Diet is so massive for me, and it's human connection. I'm not talking about hanging around with mates partying. I'm talking about finding those people where you can sit there and have a conversation that just leaves you feeling warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
What's been the hardest day of your life?
Oh, fuck. I honestly try not to think about these things. Hardest day of my life. Oh, I don't know. There's been a few, mate, eh?
Yeah.
There's been a few. I don't know. There's been two. I mentioned one of them before, like falling in the hole.
Yeah.
I'd say losing Scott was it was a hard day. It was but it wasn't. I feel embarrassed to say that. It wasn't a hard day. It was an inspiring day. It was a tragic day. It wasn't a hard day. To be honest, one of the hardest days was the day after winning my court case and being left with that same feeling that I had post-service of what now? Couldn't even get an apology. And I sunk into a hole going, have I just proven that the media can do whatever they want?
It's almost you won, but it almost felt like a loss too.
It did, yeah.
How have you defined success now?
Oh, 2 things, health and happiness. Like, success. Yeah. Helping others to achieve health and happiness. That ties into my love language as well.
Your deepest fear?
Oh, good question. I used to be letting people down. My biggest fear is honestly losing my own discipline. Like you've said beforehand, I've also gone through periods of self-sabotage, and I've very nearly been the only person on this earth proven to almost kill myself. So my biggest fear is being alone, being lonely, and losing my own standards of discipline.
What makes you happy now?
My sausage dog. Honestly, little copper. Seriously, he's just the sweet.
Dogs are the best, though, aren't they?
Mate, there's something about a sausage dog. The ears, they're like elephant ears. They have this extra level of personality.
Yeah.
He is the biggest cuddle bug. And then all of a sudden, a possum will crawl across mum's fence. And the bravery of these things, mate, like he makes me so happy. What else makes me happy? The veteran games makes me so happy, as you heard from the start. And those handful of people and family members in my life that I have finally, the world has forced me to declutter my life and create space for them to, vibrate the way they do in my life. Yeah.
Who's your hero?
Oh, that's a really good question. I have a couple.
Do you?
Yeah. Scott Smith's mother, Katrina, is a hero for me. That night when, that day when the ABC published that article on the anniversary of Scott's death, the 8th year anniversary, we were all meeting at the North Bondi RSL to have dinner with her. And we hadn't had dinner with her till since we got back deployment, so 8 years. And the guys were so angry about this article. I was so fearful and embarrassed and ashamed that she was having to go through this publicly. And she just turned to me and said, Heston, that day I lost Scott, I gained 40 other sons, like all of you here. And she has been a rock. Katrina is one of my heroes. My mum is one of my heroes. I have to say, like she, when I went through ADFA, she became a nurse. She was an aerobics instructor, worked in a bottle shop. And the human she's turned into has been incredible. And as cliche as it sounds, my dad, the guy who taught me to be tough and also it's okay to cry, and my sister, my youngest sister, the first person I ever told I was gay in Banff in Canada where she was living.
Yeah, nice.
we were walking across this iced glacial river. It was incredible. I said, hey, what would you say if I told you I was gay? She stopped. She turned. She said, are you doing anything illegal or are you hurting anyone? I was like, no. She says, are you happy? I said, yeah. She said, well, that's what counts. And she just turned and kept walking. And I was like, she is the wisest person, one of the wisest person I've ever known. So it's cliche, but they really are some close family and friends.
And last one, if you could go back in time and give that 17-year-old Heston one piece of advice for preparing for the journey ahead, what would you say?
I would have given him the lotto numbers for last weekend. It is, again, cliche, but this authenticity, it's like be Heston Russell. Put your energy into being the best version of Heston Russell and stop worrying about what you think is cool and popular and what other people say, because your mum and dad gave you a cool name. Like, just be it and enjoy the journey. Yeah. That's
exactly what I would say to myself too. So thank you so much, Heston, for coming on the podcast and having this chat with me. Like I said at the start, I really look up to you, and you're someone that I really admire, and I've so happy that after 2 years of doing this, I could finally get you on. And sorry for bugging you so much as well.
Oh, good on you. Like I said beforehand, if you don't put yourself forward in this world, you'll lose your way.
Yeah, so like I said, I've the utmost respect for you and the man that you are and how you show up for the world and the impact that you've had. You probably don't realise the big of an impact you've had on me. So yeah, it's been a privilege. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that, mate. Thanks for having me on. That's very flattering for you to say that. And I look at you, and again, you get that place of comparison. Like, I'm impressed with the conversations you're having at 34 and the fact that you're going out to do this and married and all the rest. So crack on, keep it up.
Thank you very much, mate. Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Mind Your Head. If you'd like to support the show, be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really supports the show and helps others discover us. Don't forget to join us on Instagram and TikTok at mindyourhead.podcast.